Goodness me, that's warm. Es calor. Demasiado calor. Ooh, that's a warm one. Necesito uno agua. Necesito cerveza. Dos cerveza. Tres cerveza. 10 cerveza. Yep. 10 beers. Oh. That's what we want. Oh. Well, good evening. Welcome back to Spain. And you find me now on the west coast in Galicia. We have been here a couple of days now and haven't really recorded anything from this area. I'm on Cabo, Udra, U-D-R-A, Cape Udra. Seems to be a protected sort of nature reserve. And we've been here a couple of days, found a great little park up. Plenty of solar, so no issue with not driving on. And we've really just used it as a little bit of a beach day, or beach days. A little bit of trail running, a little bit of snorkeling, maybe a cerveza or two. But I thought I'd come out this evening with a camera. I'm finding on this trip not getting a huge amount of really sort of dedicated camera time, and a lot of reasons for that, not least, trying to sort of balance between, finding decent park-ups that put me sort of in slingshot of a decent photographic area sort of at dawn or dusk is a bit problematic. And obviously it's Nicola and I are travelling together, so it's just getting that balance. But also a lot of the places are very busy, and the weather has been, especially the last week, has been a lot like this. Huge blue skies, and when it comes to sunset, a lot of it gets obscured by kind of just haziness, and so you lose a lot of that intensity. But I did a trail run this morning around here, nice little cheeky 5-miler, and it's a really fascinating area because we're on the coast obviously, and you walk around the Cape, and there are some nice areas down there that you could probably go and photograph, some nice sort of textured and colourful rocks, but it's very, very flat, calm sea, so you're not really getting any movement in the sea. So I brought myself up sort of to the highest point on Cape Udra, and there's these huge big, we'll wander through, but there's these huge big massive boulders strewn all over here. I'm sure the geologists out there will be able to tell me in the comments how all this was formed. And then of course we have this area of pine, and I thought just with some of the sort of late evening light, some of the compositions with the trees and the rocks may work. Now I've come up here, I'm not so sure, but heck, we'll go for a bit of a dander around the Cape anyway and see whether we can find something. But this is Cape Udra, and it broke 36 degrees today. Very warm indeed. So a little starter for 10 I've set up here. These were a couple of the trees that I had spotted on my run. I first of all ran by them on the bottom path, and then this morning I come up to this top path, and I sort of visualised that with the setting sun we would get some of that nice side light on the side of the trunks, and that's certainly what we're getting. But it's not without its complications, not least I think it works best in a portrait orientation, but to get the real sort of shapes of the trees, we're getting a heck of a lot of that sort of really blown out sky. So I have shot a portrait image, and I've shot a couple of different exposures to see whether I could bring something back in post, but I think that's always going, your eyes I think will always be drawn up to the brighter parts of the frame. So I then thought, well, I quite like how the main subjects kind of complement, I think, the other trees behind it. And so in a landscape format, I can obviously exclude all of that sky, but maybe it's just a little bit too busy. What I think as well is, with all these ferns here, this could be a really nice image in autumn. Just a sort of real blast of autumn colour in the understory, but it's okay for a starter, I guess. So we'll throw these two images up, the portrait and the landscape, and we shall mosey on. So I've actually brought myself out of I wouldn't even call it a woodland, it's a little coppice of trees. But I brought myself out of there. I just couldn't make anything really work. And I really wanted to make an image of these boulders because they just seem so out of place, just kind of dotted around the landscape. So I kind of wanted to make sure that I made an image. Now, given the fact that the conditions, sort of bright sunshine, blue sky, obviously we're looking at black and white here. And I quite liked how the rocks kind of all fell off in a line going from left to right. Giant wasp just landed on my arm there. So landscape orientation, F something or other, and obviously with, as I say, that black and white film simulation, and I'll probably look to work to bring out a lot more of that contrast and texture in those rocks in post. Again, it's a much to do about nothing shot, but I really wanted to capture one just because the boulders really intrigued me as I wander around this beautiful landscape. I'll throw this up and we'll wander on. So maybe there's a bit of a theme developing here, making images of those rocks. Again, I come out into a little bit of a clearing, and just up to my right there were more scattered rocks around, and I just kind of liked, again, just that with the bright sunshine on them and thinking black and white. Certainly some moody clouds in there would work quite well, and maybe even a longer exposure with some moving clouds, or maybe not. Maybe that would overcomplicate the scene. Maybe the simplicity of the clear canvas of the blue sky is going to work, allowing you just to completely give 100% attention to the rocks and the texture. Again, shooting on the 18-135 with the X-T2 F something or other. And again, thinking in post that we'll be really accentuating some of those tones and textures in those rocks. But this is just beautiful though. I mean, not great conditions, and it's about another hour or so before sunset, and I can already see some of that light being subdued, as is quite often the case on sort of hot countries and stuff. You get that haze on the horizon, which really does start to limit the amount of sort of direct light that you're getting on your subjects. But it's beautiful wandering around in shorts, t-shirts and sandals, photographing, and it's probably still mid to upper 20s. Not too shabby at all. Right, throw this one up and we'll wander on. Oh, rather nice, isn't it? I kind of was going to go down, try to get down to the shoreline here, but but the reeds were kind of above head height, and shorts and sandals and prickly things didn't really appeal to me. So I actually brought myself up onto one of the bits of random rock as the sun's just hovering above the horizon. And it does actually give you a real fantastic appreciation of just how just crazy this landscape is. You know, you've got the pine trees, you've got the lovely heather, which is really starting to come out in bloom. You've got some honeysuckle, some other wildflowers. You've obviously got the beautiful coastline with boulder-strewn coastline as well. And then, of course, I'm assuming this is glaciated. Is that what happened here? But you've got all these crazy boulders just sitting on top of each other, and oh, it's just beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. The light, however, as I said earlier, really is starting to subdue. Now, we are still a good half an hour, 40 minutes away from sunset, but I can see this sort of band of hazy dustiness that's really just sucking quite a lot of that light out. In fact, I'm even getting a bit dark there. But we'll carry on. Anyway, what I was doing here was I was shooting a couple of panoramics. Now, the landscape itself is falling off from left to right, and I'm not too sure. Everything's leveled off, everything's as it should be, but I still don't think the full panoramic is going to work. So when I see a panoramic type image, but I don't want to necessarily just leave it the full panoramic, I start to kind of think, well, rather than just have a single horizontal image of this coppice of trees, let's maybe take 2 or 3 frames of that same coppice. So you end up with a similar format, but much higher resolution image, because of course you're blending together maybe 3-4 images. And again, bringing myself up here, I was able to, well, hopefully able to maybe put together a bit of a panoramic. Oh, I'm just looking behind you here. Billions of midges. Oh, where have they come from? Boy, Scotland. So I put together a couple of panoramic images here as well. And then of course, as a fail-safe, just in case it doesn't work, I also shoot a regular image of the scene as well. Obviously not the same format, but at least I have a single frame in the bag as well. But this is beautiful. And in fact, I can imagine this in 2 different landscapes. One, a really misty fog, especially in those trees. And I think the morning that we arrived, we drove through some incredible mist getting here. And when I got here, it was a beautiful sunny morning, but everything was drenched in dew. And I'm pretty sure this area did get some lovely misty conditions. None of that this morning when I went out. Secondly, I think it would work really well on a stormy day, because there's some fantastic rock structures down here as well. But you can probably make that out. There's just no energy to the waves whatsoever. And by the way, it's still the Atlantic. It's still blooming freezing. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I am going to call it there. I'll throw these couple of images up that I shot here, the panoramics and various bits and bobs. I'm probably going to carry on wandering around and seeing whether there's anything else to shoot, but we'll call it quits on the vlog. If you're also following our travel vlogs, the next one will be on Sunday. I'm not exactly sure where that's from. Obviously those are a few weeks from behind, but we're going to carry on now bimbling up the Galician coastline. So I guess from the photography vlogs side of things anyway, we're probably going to be back into coastal landscapes for a while, so looking forward to that. Right guys, well once again, thanks a lot for following along this Españole journey. We are now 6 weeks in, would you believe, 6 weeks into the trip. We have a couple of plans that might be able to extend it, but we'll just have to wait and see. Until next time guys, thanks a lot for watching and take care. Bye bye.